Hello, as the video states, uh, this is an introductory video to a YouTube channel that I'm trying to start. I've had multiple amounts of cracks at this, and I have had shortcomings, inconsistencies, and so on and so forth, many because of myself, well, rather as a by my own fault, excuse me. But now I feel as if I can start this off properly. Yeah, uh, you know, the reason why it took me a while to start this is because I was fearful of the fact that trying to platform what it is that I'm attempting to platform would is a dangerous thing. But I'm going to pray and hope that the destiny that has met those who have tried to do what I'm about to do right now does not meet me. Um, Sorry, the destiny that has met those in the past who have tried to do what I'm doing right now doesn't meet me. I'm hoping that there is a generational change that allows for this kind of a movement, I would call it, to take off in service of something greater. So, of course, whenever you embark on anything that's got to do with politics in South Africa, you're always afraid about whether what you're going to be embarking in is going to be supported. There's always a fear that, the murderous and um, killing tendencies of our society are going to come and basically take you down. That's a reality, unfortunately, and I think that it's fitting that I start this video with that reality in registered completely with everybody, because I think it would be disrespectful of those who have come before us, who have tried to to bring about something transformative, not just in South Africa but across the continent and the world, for us to not be realistic about the fact that doing such things has resulted in the deaths of many. We know how Robert Sobukwe was incarcerated to the point where, if I'm not mistaken, he said to Helen Suzman he was losing his speech. We know what happened to Bantu Bigo. We know what happened to Chris Hani. We know what happened to Samora Michel. We know what happened to Thomas Sankara. We know what happened to Petrus Lumumba. We know what has happened consistently when black people try to affirm and assert their dignity in society. We know, and we know all the sellouts that have been given luxury and all manner of riches to sacrifice their people, to sacrifice fellow black people. South Africa right now there's a lack of direction, on not just in politics but also in policy, public policy in particular, economic policy, various amounts of public policy, and all of it because of the fact that we do not have clarity. We have, not that we don't have clarity, but of the fact that we have people in positions of authority who are subservient to a world order that keeps people in a state of or rather in a state of a lack of dignity, in a state of a lack of dignity. Sorry, that's a mouthful. And so contributing to pushing back against something of that nature, more especially in a country like ours, where political killings just take place. I mean, this year, we saw AKA get assassinated in front of everybody. We still haven't, well, at the time of this video, no, we still haven't found the killers. I mean, Senzo Miyo's case has been going on for such a long time. So if people who are that popular can get assassinated, it means nothing. I mean, I think about the fact that Cindy Somakaka was assassinated some might say the last truly legitimate leader of the African National Congress, last truly legitimate Secretary General of the African National Congress Youth League assassinated, and nothing. I'm not sure if they found his killers or whatever the case may be, but the point here being that it is so easy to kill people who are so prominent in our country. This was true also for Chris. Chris was assassinated. Chris Hani was assassinated, in 1993, and only now are people calling for his inquest. There's not even a need for an inquest. I mean, the man who assassinated Chris Hani is walking around, God only knows where, having been given parole. So these are the realities that if you stand up and you say something that is just in South Africa, you die. Or rather, that has been the history. And obviously, we have seen of late those kind of things take place. Not to say that, a football superstar and a rapper were in any way, shape, or form political activists, but the popularity of individuals is at minimum supposed to prevent certain acts of violence taking place. But it hasn't, and it's unfortunate. But hopefully, this video, so hopefully what I'm about to start doesn't end the same way. But I would be wrong to not start off by being realistic about the fact that such things do happen. Now going on to the substance of this video. That was substantive what I said, but more substance. We live in a country where we have aspirations that are embedded within the Constitution. Basically, like many constitutions, democratically constructed constitutions, the principles embedded are principles that align with human rights. I mean, we're a non-racial, non-sexist society. Section 9 of the Constitution says that nobody shall unfairly be discriminated against on the grounds of race, gender, sex, sexual orientation. All manner of rights being conferred to people, right to freedom, the freedom of expression, the freedom of opinion, the freedom of belief. So all of these things align with generally what is expected of a human rights abiding democracy. But the truth of the matter is that 30 years on, marching on 30 years next year, we have to date not seen the realization of those desires, of the principles, of the values, of what we stand for, of what we wish to stand for. And excuses have been made, multiple amounts of excuses, from geopolitical, reasons to geoeconomic reasons to domestic policy, domestic reality reasons, capacity, financial capacity, administrative, operational capacity. Various amounts of excuses have been made, but the reality is that all of these excuses have just been for the purpose of preserving a global ideology that is unfortunately being held up today by democracies, an ideology of greed, an ideology that says it is somehow justified at a time when humanity has all the technological and scientific know-how to solve all the world's problems, to ensure that the 7 necessities of life, food, water, electricity, housing, healthcare, education, clothing, are guaranteed to every single person, all 8 billion and counting. At a time when humanity has those capabilities, what prevents the realization of the benefits of having such technological and scientific knowledge for everybody is simply greed, and we need to be realistic about the fact that that's where we are right now. It's not that we don't have the ability to do, it's just that in order for us to get, someone has to get filthy rich, and there is something very, very wrong with that. That ideology is an ideology of greed. If you have enough resources to give to people, if you have in abundance, and you insist that only when you are gifted more in abundance shall you be able to share, or will you then consider sharing a little bit, then you're greedy. That's all that is. That is not you contributing and having so much value in society that there's a justification. There can never be a justification in a humane society for one person or a couple of people to have in abundance while there are people that go around not having what they need. That is something that we don't say enough times, but that is something that we should start saying more and more. And hopefully it does become a norm. You know, this reality has existed in South Africa. In South Africa, there was colonization, there was apartheid, and it created inequalities across racial lines that still live with us to this day. And the reality is, we have always known what needs to be done to end the legacy of that, which was, you know, the legacy. In order for us to end that legacy, we know the Freedom Charter was written in the 1950s, clearly stipulating all the economic transformative measures that would need to be implemented in a post-democratic South Africa to ensure that, you know, the dignity that had been deprived of people on the grounds of their skin color was conferred onto them. Excuse me. We have known for a very, very long time, you know, what needs to be done. We just have not done it because the billionaire class has control over political systems, and then maybe that is really what is at the center of you know, our problems as a society. What is really at the center of our crisis as a democratic society, but also truthfully across all democracies, you know, the influence of the billionaire class over the political system. So this reality is something that we have not stated. It's something that we need to understand is true. It's something that we need to fight against, excuse me. And this video is intended to be the building blocks upon which this movement is constructed. A movement to remove money from politics, you know, to end the blockade that has been created by the lack of implementation of the principles, the economic transformative measures that need to be implemented in South Africa to ensure dignity. You know, many of the things that have been proposed within the Freedom Charter, within various amounts of economic transformative proposals that have been made, breaking apart the banks, destroying monopolies within key strategic sectors of the South African economy, you know, increasing minimum wage, universal basic income grants, in expropriation of land without compensation. All of these policies that are at their heart intended to transform the economy, and ensure that everybody gets to live in dignity. Everybody, not just some people, but everybody gets to live a dignified life, are things that have been done in Switzerland, Sweden, Denmark. You know, these kind of measures have been deployed in America during the Great Depression. You know, in the 1920s, President Roosevelt did many of the state expansionist policies that are so viciously advocated against. And the reality is that the question is, why? Why is it so reprehensible? Why is it so illogical and irrational when it is proposed to be implemented in South Africa, as opposed to when it is proposed to be implemented in Sweden and Switzerland and so on and so forth? And well, the answer is simply looking you straight in the face, which is my skin color. At the end of the day, it's unfortunate that that's the reality, but it is the reality. And hopefully we can start a process of unraveling that reality. My desire is to ensure that we dismantle the idea of um, racism specifically, so as to clearly expose the greed that sits behind it, because that is truly where the problem is. The problem is minimally about the identity that is used to advantage or disadvantage an individual. But it is more so about the greed that sits behind that agenda, that even countries where everybody is white or countries where everybody is black, as we have seen across the African continent, this problem is there. You know, in many African countries, there is no white people. Why is there still greed? Why is there still levels of inequality that are insane? Why is there still poverty when the politicians and the billionaire class and the business people are living beautiful lives? That has nothing to do with race. In situations like, maybe in certain situations, it'll have to do with ethnicity, tradition, culture, religion, sex, age. So there are various amounts of divisions that cause uh, um, the amplification of greed. All of them, though, centered around the preservation of an ideology of greed. Greed, in particular, being synonymous with control. Because what value does 60 billion rand really have to a person? There was a study that was conducted, I think, in the US, that found that a normal human being couldn't use more than $45 million in a lifetime. And so what value does 60 billion rand actually have? 60 billion rand, I think, is comfortably more than 45 million dollars. But when would Johan Rupert need that money, or Nikki Oppenheimer, or Christo Viso? When would they actually use it? It's got nothing to do with using the money. It's got everything to do with control. It's about having control. And control and the desire to have illegitimately and, historically, criminally acquired levels of control, to the extent to which these gentlemen have. In the case of South Africa, that is, but in the case of other democracies, just blatantly, illegitimately, not because of anything else other than the fact that nobody voted for a CEO, nobody voted for a chairman of the board, nobody voted for a major shareholder, nobody voted for Jeff Bezos, nobody voted for Bill Gates, nobody voted for Warren Buffett, nobody voted for Charles Koch, nobody voted for Johan Rupert, nobody voted for Nikki Oppenheimer, nobody voted for any of these guys, and yet they have the ability to control us. And that's the big question. And that's the conversation that we're trying to initiate. It has got nothing to do with race. It has minimally to do with race, rather. It does have something to do with race, just minimally. You look at Patrice Motsepe, exactly the same situation. He's not white. Atal Gupta, Rajesh Gupta, I don't know how many Guptas they are. They're not white. So this is a problem that goes far beyond any skin color. And I'm reminded of the fact that during the apartheid regime, one person that taught me said that, who was in CODESA, said that they hated Joe Slovo more than they hated the ANC. And the reason why they hated Joe Slovo, first of all, he was a white man telling a white man's system that you're wrong. But second of all, he was talking about economic dignity for everybody. And that is something that made them hate them even more. Because the only thing that makes people hate, the only thing that the powers that be, the billionaire class, hates more than speaking about racism is speaking about greed. So let us start this conversation. with one clear message. It has never been. A message that is probably as old, a message that every single parent tells their children on a daily basis, which is true when you say it to your child, and is going to remain true until the realization of its truth within society. And the message is, it has never been, it will never be, ever, ever moral or right or okay for anyone to have luxury while some people don't have dignity. Let us start this channel. Thank you.